Hello, welcome back to Our Vision Farm. I'm doing some flower garden cleanup today, so I thought I'll do a video of how that is going. I've been cleaning up the boxes of weeds and trying to give space to the plants that are trying to grow and get some sunlight because they were getting overtaken with weeds. Just trying to give them some more space and sunlight by just pulling as many weeds as possible. But this is our flower garden, and if you remember when we first moved here, this area was home to a broken down kind of like a workshop shed. It was made out of wood. It was super old and it was just crumbling down. So we took it apart and repurposed as much of the wood as we could to build ourselves some little raised beds. Not super tall or anything, but we were just trying to salvage as much wood as possible. So this is what we came up with. We did a little flower slash herb garden, and this is mostly for the pollinators. I do sell cut flowers on our stand and at the farmer's market. So we purposely plant a lot of things. Some of the things are just wildflower mixes for the bees and the pollinators. So at the entrance of the garden over here where I'm walking in is raspberries to the right and to the left. We've been picking some raspberries and freezing them because it's not a whole lot to pick all at once. So what I do is just freeze them in batches and then make like a jam or a jelly. So these raspberries were already here when we moved here, and so we did a little walking pathway and kept the raspberries there so they could continue producing for us. I'm not sure how old these raspberry bushes are, but raspberries keep on just kind of reproducing. The old canes die off and they put out new ones, so we hope that they'll be there for a while. These first two boxes, we have calendula over here, which have been doing awesome. These have been great for our flower arrangements, and calendula is also edible. You can use it in teas. Some people make like medicines out of them or balms and whatnot. So we have yellow ones and orange ones, and they've kind of just been spreading everywhere. Then we have in here some volunteer tomato plants. These have not produced yet, and I see some little teeny tiny ones just now starting to sprout, so we'll see what happens with those. Volunteers usually do really well on their own without having to care for them much. So here's another tomato. They're just kind of intertwined with other things because we did have tomatoes in this box last year, so it looks like some of them seeded themselves. I planted wildflowers in this box over here, but what mostly grew here seems to be sunflowers. There's lots of pollinators out right now. So this turned out to be a sunflower box unintentionally. I probably threw some sunflower seeds in here, or they seeded themselves from last year's sunflowers. But we have a couple different varieties. I'm not sure what this is, but we've had this blooming in here. But most of all, it was sunflowers. So back here, I purposely planted this box in sunflowers. So this one did really good. Very tall sunflowers. I've been harvesting and offering arrangements with sunflowers and just cut sunflowers in the shop for $1 a stem. So the deer ate a lot of our sunflowers, but it left us quite a bit because we've had blooms and blooms, and I've been cutting them and they just continue blooming. So that is always nice. We have some, there's poppies in here. There's these little flowers. I forgot what they are called. This most likely came from a wildflower blend. We have these little pink flowers. These are new to me this year, and I am not sure what they are called, but they are pink, and I use them in the arrangements also. So back here is just more sunflowers. So let's move on. This box over here, I've planted a couple things here, and everything just kind of kept, like, it would germinate, it would grow, and then it would just disappear. It would dry up, wither away. So not sure if this box is not sunny enough, but I planted something else. I can't remember what this is. This seems to be thriving in here. This is some type of vegetable. Might be cucumbers or some type of summer squash or winter squash. I'm leaning more towards cucumbers, but I'm not 100% sure. And those have kind of blown up since they germinated. I popped them in here from seeds and they're doing good. So I'm glad I got to grow something in this little box. But this box gets a lot of shade. We have the little old boat over here, so depending on the position of the sun, this box is under shade most of the day, so the flowers were not happy there. This little box in the middle, this little island, we have borage. We grew this in Florida, so I was excited to know that it would grow here in Maine too. Borage is an edible flower. You can actually eat the leaves also. They have like a cucumber taste, but the flowers are very sweet. And they're really good for, like, if I'm decorating a fancy dessert or something, you can use the little edible flowers in it. Also good for the pollinators, and they're just a pretty and unique flower. I like how they droop like this and they look pink from far away. So next to that we have more sunflowers. These are smaller variety, probably the burgundy or like the sunset color ones. We have some cilantro here that seeded itself outside of the box from last year's cilantro. It was just the one, so we didn't really have enough to harvest. So just left that there. If it puts out seeds, it should eventually put out seeds. I'll save those seeds and actually do a proper planting of cilantro. This one is kind of overtaken by weeds, but we have some flowers here. I don't think these are zinnias. I'm not sure what those are. But we had the lupins in here, which have already flowered and went to seed for this year. More sunflowers to the right of that, and all in between is just weeds. This is a variety of weeds that I see everywhere on our property. But sometimes I do use, not sure what kind of weed this is, but I use it in the arrangements as fillers. So it's not a complete waste. Over here is bee balm. We have two of these plants that our neighbor gave us last year, and they have blown up to be ginormous plants, which is awesome. And they have these pretty purple flowers. I've been using those in our arrangements. We have some other flowers here, sunflowers. I forget, this is some type of flower too. It already flowered for this year. I believe it had a yellow flower. This is our exploding box of mint. We have spearmint and peppermint in this box. So this whole side is spearmint, which I believe we planted from seed, if I'm not mistaken. And then the regular peppermint was already here on the property when we moved here, and it's just been spreading everywhere. I have even seen mint growing out of that wood pile over there. But we've been drying mint and also selling it at the farm stand or the farmer's market as fresh mint. Back here I see some type of winter squash growing here. It's starting to vine out, or it might be cucumbers again. Kind of looks like cucumbers. There's onions here. There's a volunteer tomato plant. Sunflower, so it's kind of a mix of everything back here. Some more calendula. They are so pretty and bright. This was the variety mix from My Gardener. Nasturtium. I always plant nasturtium. I've been selling the edible flowers. You can also eat the greens. So this whole box is nasturtium. I didn't plant as much as last year because last year the nasturtium took over quite a few boxes. You can see how big it gets. So just kept it to one box, and I planted a couple seeds in here, and it's this whole box full pretty much. Some more sunflowers over here that somehow began to grow outside of the box. Might have been dropped seeds or seeds that germinated off of last year's sunflowers. This is that other bee balm. This one started flowering a little bit later, so it's more full of the vibrant purple flowers. The other one is sort of dying off now. I believe these are poppies, and they have already flowered. I'm not sure if they're going to flower anymore, but we had a couple flowers out of these plants. Not enough to really cut or do anything with, but they flowered a lot earlier than all the other flowers. So this is, I'm thinking it's acorn squash. It's really hard to tell until later on, but this is what it's looking like right now. Could be also a pumpkin variety. I didn't really do a good job of labeling any of our winter or summer squash or pumpkins this year. We saved seeds from last year. We planted new things and some seeds that a friend gave us. So all of our pumpkins and stuff is mixed up, but to me they are looking like an acorn squash shape. And I'm not sure if there's two plants here. I'm not sure if they're both the same, but this one is going to take over this whole area. I've been trying to trim where it's like spreading out to spread out not on the other boxes but outside of the boxes. Heading this way is our rhubarb plants. So we've harvested lots of rhubarb. We have some in the freezer and it's still good. Even though it's almost August, we're still harvesting and it's still edible. It's not woody or anything yet. So rhubarb was already here when we moved here. There's a cluster of sunflowers here. There's nothing in this box. There's a volunteer tomato plant which has some little grape tomatoes on it already. I'm not sure if this is a flower. I was thinking it was marigolds, but it has not flowered yet, and it's probably like it has these little things, so it might be a type of weed. And I was waiting to see if it would flower to see if it was marigold, because the leaf shape kind of resembles a marigold, but if it turns out to be a weed, I'll just yank it out and I'll see if I have time. Should have time to plant something in this box, maybe radishes, something that's quick growing. This box, more sunflowers. We planted lots of sunflowers this year. There's a random carrot here, so I don't know if I put carrot seeds in this box, and none of them germinated except for the one. But that's a carrot. Again, this is some type of, it's in the squash family, or doesn't look like cucumbers, but it could be anything like that. We have our thyme. This is from last year. It has gotten very big. Over here is another one of whatever the other one is. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that ends up being. And then I randomly planted 2 watermelon plants here, which are doing really good. Super happy, spreading out. And we have little watermelons growing, so the pollinators are doing their job. This plant is spreading out and it has flowers, and it already has little baby watermelons. I'm not sure if these are the sugar baby ones or a variety that's bigger, but it's making its way over there. We have to just make sure that we do not cut it with the lawnmower when we're cutting the grass. So this is going to spread out. It's already outside of the box, but it has all of this space to just continue growing as long as we don't lose it inside of the grass. I planted more watermelon back here next to the rake. We did cucumbers on the rake last year and they did good. They climbed all over. So my intention with the watermelon is to do the same. So I'm trying to train it to climb up this rake so the watermelons could be off the ground. And then there's another one here. And originally I planted cucumber here and they never germinated, and it looks like this is covered in weeds, so I won't know. But this is one of the cucumbers that I had originally planted here, and it just now germinated at the end. It's almost August, so it's kind of late. I might have to move it somewhere else because I want the watermelon to spread out in this area. I no longer want cucumbers here. And then back here is the kiwi berries we planted They've been doing really good. They do have some bug damage. Lots of new growth, but the Japanese beetles love the leaves. You can see some damage, and I've been coming here and just flicking them off or flicking them into a bowl with water. They're not doing too much damage though, for the most part. If you look at like the whole entire plant, it's not too bad, but that's the whole wall of kiwi berries. So that's our flower and herb garden. We do have more flowers in the actual veggie garden, mostly sunflowers. I think that's all that's in there that's blooming right now, but we have plenty of sunflowers just here in the front. They did great this year. Right off behind the flower garden is where we planted the Carmine Jewel cherry trees. You can see how big these have been getting. So they go all the way down this line, and then the rest of the rows all the way back there is the honeyberries, which I've done updates on those already, but I haven't done an actual video walking through the flower garden, so I wanted to get that out the way while I was in there cleaning up anyway. So I love our little repurposed area, and it's kind of like a little enchanted flower garden. It's different every single year. We plant different things, and different things show up from wild seeds. These are wild daisies. And then we have these. I don't know what these are called, but it's like a vine, and it has these beautiful purple flowers. I can't really do much with them, but they're pretty. And the bees love them too. So yeah, that's our repurposed area that we are strictly growing flowers, different assorted flowers, and fresh herbs for the kitchen, and medicinal things also. I like planting dual purpose things, things that we can use in the kitchen that are also pretty to look at and I can use in our flower arrangements. So I hope you guys are doing good and are having an amazing summer and are getting lots of gardening done, whether you are just finishing off in your season or if you're like us and it feels like you are just getting started. We have a very short growing season here, so just now we are starting to harvest vegetables and seeing more farms picking more vegetables and getting more vegetables into their farm stands. So it feels like it's super late where we used to live in Florida. Their season is pretty much done. They're planting their fall garden next. We are really just getting started and hoping for a late frost this fall so that allows time for things like pumpkins and watermelons to really grow. But I'm enjoying our garden this year. It's going well, although it feels a little bit delayed. It's still going good and everything is just in its perfect timing. So we're starting to pick cucumbers and green beans right now. Soon we're gonna have zucchini. I showed you how our watermelon plants were up there, but we have some in the vegetable garden in our watermelon patch, and we have lots of little watermelons in there too. We have tomatoes starting to ripen. Peppers are still in the flowering stage, so hopefully those pick up speed soon so we can harvest some peppers before fall gets here. We'll have lots of pumpkins and winter squashes, zucchini and yellow squash, and we've also planted radishes, broccoli rabe, that's a new one for this year, and some purple sprouting broccoli, and onions. Onions is another thing we're looking forward to harvesting this fall. So anyway, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the tour of our flower garden. I will see you in the next video, and we'll probably go back to the vegetable garden for the next video so I can give you an update on that. Have a blessed rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one.